Welcome to Sleepover with Yuri Season 3. If you've ever been categorized as a minority, whether for being an immigrant or LGBTQ or a person of color, well, guess what? You are in a majority on my show. As Sleepover with Yuri is a show that celebrates diversity, promotes equality, raises awareness, and spreads love. In Season 2, I talked a lot about mental health and our spiritual body. Most religions and beliefs recognize two bodies, physical and spiritual, also known as soul. We are very well aware of our physical body, but not so much of our spiritual body. And there is still a lot of stigma in talking about one's soul. Spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or sense of belief that there is something greater than myself, something more to being human. In Season 3, I will be talking with my guests about their spiritual experiences, as I believe that spirituality, spiritual awakening, may be a solution to our emotional problems and a key to happiness. My next guest tonight is a good friend of mine who experienced a spiritual awakening as well, but he used some help, a help of some mind-altering substances. I'm going to find out tonight what kind of spiritual awakening was that with my guest and my friend, Cole.
Thank you very much for having me, Yuri.
Of course, I'm very excited. I've known you for quite some time, and we did talk about spirituality in the past, and I remember that fascinated about you because I never thought of you as a spiritual person, or it never occurred to me before. But then you mentioned it, and I got all intrigued. And so when I started doing this project, you popped in my head and I said, I want to have Cole on my show and I want to have a sleepover with you and talk more about spirituality, because you seemed to me at the time that you were living and breathing spirituality, not just, knew about it. So I'm very excited about tonight. I'm excited to get to know you and hear your story and learn about your spiritual awakening.
Oh, thank you very much.
So Cole, tell me a little bit about more, because I don't even know much about your life. What was your life like before spiritual awakening, and what took you to spiritual awakening?
I guess as we start to kind of like gay grow up, which is anywhere from that like 17, 18-year-old range to like in our 30s, because we really don't get our teenage years as gay men, for what I believe, because that's always kind of a nightmare with high school and middle school and everything. I needed to start to form some beliefs on my own. And I got some help through a woman named Pat, and she introduced me to The Secret, which is like the OG, like manifestation, and also What the Bleep Do We Know with Morley Matlin.
But hold on, let me interrupt you right away. You say you wanted to have some beliefs. Why?
Because luckily I was never forced to go to church, or like you only went to church because you like kind of wanted to fit in with the cool kids, because I come from a small town. But I really had nothing to believe in. I had nothing to really like turn into or turn to when I needed like questions and answers, or some like fortifications for my life, or anything that I was going through.
So you had questions about life that you didn't have answers for.
Yeah,
and you were looking for those answers. What kind of questions were those?
I don't know, just more of like, sometimes you just need to like,
what's the purpose of life type of thing?
Not even purpose of life, like what do I do next, or just some guidance. And those are things I just didn't really have the tools for. And through like What the Bleep Do We Know and The Secret, and it's just, it helps you build your beliefs.
But Cole, let me ask you, so you had questions that we all have in life, what's next, etc. But a lot of people go to a school counselor, I don't know, life coach. Why for you it was spirituality that you knew that had the answers for you?
Because they start to come to you. You start to experience them. And then you're like, oh, this is starting to form the core of me. Like, I believe anytime you answer a question, you will get the answers to it. And then I just started believing in like, everybody has an internal intelligence. And if you ask yourself a question, you'll get the answer. Because I feel like the answers are always kind of there.
And you always knew that, even before you?
No, it's things I started to experience it, and then I just started to believe in it, and it doesn't work if you don't believe.
Okay, so I'm just still trying to get the clarity of what happened, what switched here, that you realized that you wanted some spirituality in your life, did you feel like I had a guest in my previous episodes, I felt sad or empty inside?
Oh, I was crazy. Like, white boy crazy, you know what I mean? And I think we all know what that means. Like, you know, there's always some drywall sweating somewhere.
Like what? I don't really know what that means. So what do you say by
punch a wall? You know what I mean?
So you just had
a lot of anger, a lot of anger and sadness and things that were just unresolved from my childhood. Like everybody has, you know what I mean? But I had lived with an older lady named Pat, and she passed away. But she didn't baby me. And she was firm but fair. And I lived with this woman, but she became, I don't know, it's kind of like a mentor to me.
How did you meet her?
She was the mother of like a family friend, you know what I mean? And she introduced me to The Secret and What Lead Do We Know. Then I started to do my own research. And
Should you do The Secret, you said?
The Secret. The Secret is like, you know, like writing things down.
Oh, the book.
Yeah, the book. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was like, oh my God. And then you really fall into a rabbit hole of manifestations and beliefs. But I really needed all that. You know, the Bible and stuff or different forms of religion were never forced on me. So I kind of got to develop my own based on things that were already there. And that really worked for me.
Interesting. So again, when I had my first episode, I had a guest who, you know, her life was chaotic. I would love to hear more about yours, what exactly chaotic for you means though. And then she started manifesting things into her life. So that's kind of a repeated cycle. So you had some unresolved traumas from your childhood, which all the guests from previous episodes shared who had the spiritual awakening, they had some childhood traumas. And then the spiritual awakening started happening. So if you don't want to talk about it, I understand, but could you give us an example of what exactly caused your sadness and anger before you started, before you got on the journey of a spiritual awakening?
The one thing Pat said to me, I was always complaining. I would come home, complaints. And she looked at me and she says, you only want people to feel bad for you and to feel sad for you. And she didn't mess around with that at all. And that was really nice to hear because I was a little bit coddled growing up, but also not always coddled growing up. My family just through all their own resolve. It was a very we didn't really deal with each other's emotional trauma. It was always kind of like joked about, which I had a big issue with not be able to take other people seriously when they were coming at me with like serious matters. I would always kind of like laugh and stuff like that. I've gotten a lot better with that, and yeah, I became a better listener, better serious and better listener, and not like treating everything as a joke.
Okay, but that's some personality. But any specific things that happened to you, or because you said your life was chaotic and there were some traumas. Any specific example that you can give us?
It was.
Was there, like from other guests that I had, was there drug, alcohol abuse? Was there like violent behavior?
There was a little bit more just the unsupportive emotional side of growing up. And that can actually do a little bit of damage, and all the other stuff we experienced as a kid with bullying, and it was just me and a single mom, and my mom did her best, and we still had like a good family, and we didn't have a lot of money, but events and holidays were always kind of special. A lot of my emotional issues came from me like being a doormat, and I say doormat, but always like being a people pleaser. Because I always wanted to be happy, because if I can always make people happy, then they will like me more. And we know how much that can get us into trouble and really take from our energy. And that's something I kind of wanted to like, and I still kind of do it, but because I want to, and because I have the energy to give.
With different intention.
It's a different type, yeah.
So play forward. So you got into, so this woman, Pat, gave you the book, you started manifesting things into your life. What happened then?
I just kind of kept going from there. You know, then I feel like you don't just have one spiritual awakening, you have multiple in your life, depending where you are in your life. Another big one for me is like when I got into 20s and like got into circuit parties, but that was a lot of fun. Like I had another great best friend named Ricky, and he just kind of took me to like the next level of like enjoying my 20s, going to parties, starting to feel sexy, like getting out there with like people my age, because I lived in Walton Manors, which is generally older, which I didn't mind. It was a great place to grow up, but it was time for me to kind of be around like my own kind a little bit, and that went a long way. And from there, you totally do drugs. For the most part, you do drugs, which is a blessing and a curse. But I had a lot of really cool spiritual experiences because of that. It was, at one point, especially when you're doing mushrooms or you've done ketamine or ecstasy, I feel like any point, people get the answer to life. And you know it and you want to vocalize it, but it's not something you can really put into words. And that was always really important to me. And you remember those. You remember those points so vividly, and you're like, don't want to chase that dragon, but you try to do it again, and it's just going to really backfire because you've already kind of awakened that part of you. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
It does make sense, especially it's when I started seeing the 3, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. I love spirituality. I consider myself a spiritual person, and I know there's so many different forms of spirituality. And for every person's spirituality, spiritual awakening may be very different. So, but what I'm starting to learn as I go through one episode to another, that there are so many similarities of between stories of my guests. And in your case, right now, you're talking about mind-altering substances that you use as a form of spiritual awakening. And again, it's something that gave you more awareness, self-awareness.
And another perspective in life. More perspective, more awareness, more deep insight into myself as well. Things I needed to fix so I can move forward.
Could you give us any examples of, like a big example, what changed after, like what you didn't do before, and what you started doing after?
I had some messed up teeth. Like, we never went to the dentist as a kid because that's way too expensive. I got all my teeth fixed, and then that went a long way for me. Their teeth are such like meridians into the body. If your teeth are messed up, it's going to cause a whole bunch of other mental and health issues. Me getting my teeth fixed, and certain beliefs, and me getting my teeth fixed went a long way for me, and then I could party and have fun in my life and not have that weight on me. And the more like you get rid of the weights that are on you, the more better you can move throughout life. Face it to erase it.
Interesting. So when did that happen? Like, how many years ago did you have the spiritual awakening due to the mind-altering substances?
I would say I was like 22, 23.
So that was how many years ago?
I'm 35 now, so whatever that math is, 13
Over a
years.
decade ago.
Yeah.
Have you still been practicing using mind-altering substances for spiritual practices?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just great in this world. Everybody has different vices, or everybody has different ways to do it, but I love to go party and have a good time with friends and go dance and still treat everybody nice and call everybody beautiful. It's like my favorite thing to do. But it's every once in a while, and I always say I never try to like use up all my chemicals in my head.
Interesting, because it's a very different concept of what I was expecting from season 3, because I thought, and a lot of people have the stereotype of spirituality is something where you have candles lit up, listen to this meditation music, and you're all, little Buddha. But in your story, you use mind-altering substances at the party, which gave you a lot of awareness and confidence and helped you overcome your childhood traumas growing up as gay and not having enough confidence, which is a very different form of spirituality that I would ever imagine, but it does make a lot of sense. Cole, when you discovered parties and party drugs, which were a form of spiritual awakening for you, did that take you to a further, more advanced level of spirituality, so to say? Did you start, because I know that you learn and you read a lot about spirituality, that it's not just party drugs.
I still like to keep up with it, and I very much have my own core beliefs now.
So what is it?
Because of that, my core beliefs, ask yourself a question, you'll get the answer. Treat people kindly, work hard, and amazing things will happen. These are all just like my ethics and my morals, and just the things that kind of make me nowadays. And I really like to be like nice to everybody, give them a compliment, we all look in someone's eyes, and if you really look in someone's eyes, you'll see your eyes. You'll also see you'll see yourself in them, and that's why I always try to, I don't know, just be kind to people. You know, we falter, we just got to give yourself a break.
I like that. I like that you said be nice and kind to people, because again,
people appreciate it and people remember it.
Okay, and I will probably be, the season 3, I'm just going to apologize or warn you. Season 3, I'll be comparing a lot. I'll be comparing my guests and episodes. And I had a guest in my previous episode who talked about how she got more compassionate and more love. She developed more love for people because spiritual awakening. Mm-hmm. So which for me, I say is a great thing to happen, to have love in you for other people. That's, for me, is the divine and the absolute form of spirituality. Cole, I remember that, and I'm trying to have you say it before I have to ask you directly, but I remember also one of the things that really fascinated me about you, when we talked about you said that you do some rituals as well, including the Ouija board, and what are the things that you do now for a spiritual awakening? And do you feel like your spiritual awakening growing, or that's it? Once you awaken, that's it. You awaken.
My big thing is no. You're never done.
Okay.
If you think you're done, you're just kind of lying to yourself. Mm-hmm. It's always important to reflect inward before you project outward. If I act like a jerk, I remember that I act like a jerk, and I'm actually kind of always like, ugh, you know what I mean? The one thing I do is my grandma gave me a deck of Ascended Masters cards, and they might be bullshit, but they're just, I believe in them, and I use them for like a little past, present, future guidance, and they go a long way for me. If my emotions and everything are all knotted up, I write out everything. If you write something with a question, by the end of it, you'll have a solution. And just really untangle the knots of that like emotional yarn ball. Talking to other people and relating to other people goes a long way. I know people hate TikTok. I love TikTok because TikTok, I think, has been a great way to make everybody a little bit more relatable to each other through like the weirdness or like the spiritual or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you do that too? Then you just feel a little bit less alone in the world. You know, we can feel really insecure and really, I guess, kind of embarrassed about ourselves sometimes, but you really don't have to be. Everything's made up and life is short. And that's how I'm kind of living my life now, that life is short, kind of enjoy it if you can. And then everything's made up. There's really no absolute truth to this world we live in. I
like the mind openness in you and liberation of mind and kindness and positive energy and good vibes. If that's what spiritual awakening is, you know, I'm all for it. I'm gonna keep promoting it and advocating for it. Cole, how would you describe? Because a lot of people, spiritual awakening is just some, you know, it's stigma, or they don't believe in it. Or how would you describe for you what a spiritual awakening? What does it feel like? And did you actually have a moment where you felt, wow, that was a spiritual awakening? Or for you, it's more as a gradual process of getting in touch with your feelings?
It's a gradual process, but it's, you know, my feelings, like anybody else, can be all over the place. But I think, you know, around the same time I was going to parties and I was young and 22, 23, and learning to dress in different colors besides just the gay outfit, which was the black shirt with some black shoes and some jeans. I had a really great group of friends, and that was the first time in my life to where I had felt really that much love from that many people from all different walks of life, and they cared for me, and that was really, really important to me. And you may only keep up with like an Instagram click or like every once in a while on Facebook, but that time in my life was important to me, and it'll always be special to me, and I'll always love all those people, no matter like the ups and downs of, you know, friendships and relationships. So
you retired from the party life?
No, I'm going to go out this Sunday.
Okay. So, but for you, I just still trying to fight my stereotypes. So for you, spiritual awakening with the substances, it's just going out, taking, you know, party drugs and having awareness, or you use that sometimes as a ritual at home, maybe to meditate, or I don't know.
Sometimes you just want to take a bath, listen to some music, or smoke some weed and clean the shit out of your house. It really just depends on what you need. Sometimes you just need to be alone and dance around in your house. There's just so many ways to make ourselves happy. And you just kind of need to just let it happen as opposed to fight it. And I still fight it. I'll fight myself all the time of like, I need to do this, and I just don't do it. And I like to be better at it, but maybe it's just who I am, and that's okay. A little hard-headed.
I like it that you implemented different types of spirituality, because I had the whole season devoted just to manifesting things in your life, and that is something that you do all the time, including the mind-altering substances. I always ask every guest I have a sleepover with to do me one little favor, and if you could give a message to the people out there who did not have a spiritual awakening, who are interested to find out what it is, or just a message to yourself before you were spiritual awakening, what would the message be?
I mean,
if you could
do you want to feel better? Do you want to feel better? Do you want your life to work a little bit better? Do you not want to feel like you're spinning in the mud with just having the same routine all the time or having the same feelings? It's going to be ups and downs, but as long as you want to feel better, it will happen. And that is my truest belief. And even if you solve one crisis, there's probably going to be another crisis. It just depends on how you perceive it. And really, is it ever that bad?
Thank you. Cole, with mind-altering substance, it's a very trying to be as careful as I can with wording it
for some reason.
Yeah, wording it. So I guess I'll just address to the natural, organic substances that grow on Earth. And I know there are some certain drugs, like ayahuasca, and I'm planning on having an episode on that. I know you haven't done it, but you've done other organic drugs, so to say, such as mushrooms and weed, etc.
DMT.
What is DMT?
DMT is what it's called. Like, your brain actually produces it, and if I'm saying this correctly, your brain produces it when you're in a state of like close to death. So it's actually called like the spirit molecule. And you can have ceremonies, like kind of like an ayahuasca, and I believe there's different ways to kind of get it. But you just have like, it's a really kind of quick high, but really hallucinogen, and it can be really cool, and everybody experiences different things. I'd be like, I see Jesus, aliens, polygon people. People experience different things, you know what I mean? To me, was it super deep? Like, no. Was it just a trip? Yes. Was it cool? Yes. And but it's a great way to kind of like be outside of your body, be outside of yourself just for a minute, to be like, hey, that's where I actually get a lot of inspiration for my tattoos. As I'll just sit there and kind of like have a trip and be like, oh, you know what actually look cool? A crown around my head. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about your tattoo, because you have a lot of ink on your body. Does that have anything to do with spirituality? Or just
you know what? It's more how I feel, how I look on the inside. I'm just slowly turning my outside into it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I wanted a lot of tattoos on me, but it's just time and money, and I'm not trying to fill up too fast while also getting like 2-3 a year. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What is that one that you have on your head? Because that one looks kind of spiritual.
It's dope, right? I always call it my emperor's crown, but when I make the joke, I always do this.
What is it called? Emperor's
crown. You know, like they always had like Greek emperors and stuff like that, Roman emperors, and they had like that half crown.
Okay.
Which I appreciate. I might be making that up as well. Who knows?
In terms of spiritual awakening, Cole, so after you felt spiritual awakening, are you going into any deeper practices, experiences? Are you looking for, because I know some of the guests that I had, they talked about how after they experienced spiritual awakening, they continued the spiritual journey, and they listen to different podcasts, or they're trying to educate themselves even more about spirituality. Are you continuing educating yourself on this subject at all?
I think because there's so many different ways just to kind of like figure out how to be happy. It was kind of like growing up with like God and Christianity. For me, it just didn't really resonate with me, but I wouldn't, if you look at that as like a bigger picture, it all kind of says the same thing. It's like love thyself, and maybe there is an absolute, and there's just so many different ways. There's so many different things out there that you'll change all the time. And that's, one day I'll be like, oh, I'm this, and then I'm like that, and I just kind of want something that works a little bit more for me, and that creates my reality for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that in the past, in your upbringing, you were angry and sad and dealing with traumas. Is that all? Would you say the spiritual awakening take care of that, or did that change your personality? Because that's another question that I ask my guests. How did spiritual awakening affect your mental health and your personality?
My spirituality helped me kind of make sense of the things I can't understand. And that's another big thing I think is spirituality, or
Like
believing
what?
in something. The world's kind of a mess, and we're never quite, the world's kind of a mess. It can be, depending on how you look at it. But people's beliefs and their belief in a higher power, just whatever, it kind of helps them kind of rationalize things. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, why is this happening to me? But the big thing that helped me the most was therapy. Everybody needs therapy. And I love my therapist very much. And I'm always, for the most part, I'm an open book, and it's someone I very much look forward to talking to. And if you think you need therapy, go out there and find somebody that really works for you, because it works for me and it goes a long way.
All right, well, it's been a very fascinating conversation. A lot of, it's a very different form of spiritual awakening. But I like that because, it has place to be, and definitely if it helped you, if it helped even one person, then if one person believes in that experience, and then it has a place to be. Thank you so much for being, again, so open and willing to talk about that. As I keep saying in every episode, I feel it's very sad that we still have so much stigma around spirituality. And I've had guests who had to cancel and refuse to come on my show because they did not want to talk about spirituality on camera. And I'm talking about, spiritual healers and Reikis and gypsies and people who've done ayahuasca. And so to have someone to actually come and help me normalize and standardize spiritual awakening, and I'm not talking about how to get there, but just for a spiritual awakening that it has a place to be, and our soul and our spiritual body, that for me is beautiful, and I applaud you for that. And people like you will hopefully help, other people come to self-awareness and love for other people. Well, on that note, it's time to go to bed. It's been, get some sleep and digest and sleep on everything you just told me, so I can, digest that. Thank you so much, and have a good night. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.